We're pretty sure you'll agree with us that movies that depict cannibalism are some of the goriest and nauseatingly disturbing flicks out there. And when we talk about cannibal movies, Cannibal Holocaust is one of the most obvious choices that come to mind. There's something about the 1980s low-budget Italian B-movie gorefest that makes you sick in your stomach. However, if you're looking for something newer, something more in sync with the modern times, the Green Inferno from 2013 is perhaps the only movie from recent years that replicates the premise of the Rugerro Deodato directorial. After all, it's inspired by the OG 1980 Cannibal Holocaust that spawned a slew of low-budget cannibal movies back in the day. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The plot. In New York City, college freshman Justine, played by the talented Lorenza Izzo, is sleeping in her room with her roommate Casey, played by Sky Ferreira. When she wakes up to the sound of a protest outside her hostel room, she sees a group of students going on a hunger strike for health care for janitors, and soon gets attracted to the group's social causes, and more so to a handsome Latin American guy named Alejandro, portrayed by Ariel Levy, who is the leader of the group. Justine is eager to do something for women's rights, especially after she listens to a lecture about female genital mutilation, FGM, in her class. She soon gets invited by Aaron Burns, who plays a guy named Jonah, to join the group of student activists on their next mission. The activists decide to head to the Amazonian rainforest in order to protect the forest from being cut down by a petrochemical company. They land in Peru and are escorted deep into the jungle by a guy named Carlos, played by Mishas Lopez, who looks very suspicious, sort of like a drug peddler or some sort of mafia guy. The stunning aerial views of the Amazon are reminiscent of the kind of shots we've seen in Cannibal Holocaust, suggesting that the film's writer, director Eli Roth, has been deeply inspired by those visuals. When the group reaches the jungle, they tie themselves up to the trees with chains to grab the attention of the bulldozers and the private militia, who've been hired by the contractors to kill the natives or anybody who tries to stop them from invading the land. Justine couldn't lock herself up and was caught by an officer to be killed. When Alejandro tells the militia that her father works for the UN, the militia's head gets a call from someone and tells his men to stop and let the activists go. Let the gore begin. What ensues deep in the Amazon rainforest is the stuff of every gore lover's fantasy. The plane in which the group is flying catches fire mid-air and crashes into the woods. This is when we see our first sight of gore, and the movie's kill count begins. As the plane crashes, the pilot's head gets smashed as it hits a tree branch. A bunch of guys who get flown out of the plane mid-air fall to their deaths. The surviving members of the group try to find their GPS and cell phones when, out of nowhere, a guy gets up and walks straight into the plane's blades, which are still spinning, only to have part of his skull sliced and blood oozing out of it. Here come the cannibals. The survivor group is captured by cannibalistic natives, who take them for the enemy. No points for guessing what happens next, just like in the cult classic, Cannibal Holocaust, or in every movie with a cannibal tribe. Living far away from civilization, the group gets tranquilized with darts and taken to a village. When the group wakes up, they find themselves in the middle of half-naked, red-skinned men, women, and children, who smear them with some sort of red paint, all while the group looks terrified and clueless at the same time. The group gets further horrified when they see skeletons, skulls, and heads of dead men hung on spears on display throughout their way. The village elder, aka the scary orange-colored old lady, arrives and examines all the captives. Meanwhile, the chunkiest member of the group, Jonah, is being prepped to be the tribe's next meal in the most gruesome of ways. A native gives Jonah a drink and makes him lie on a rock. The village elder, played very convincingly by Antonita Pari, plucks out Jonah's eyes one after another and gobbles them down her throat. She then proceeds to slit his tongue and chews it, while the rest of the clan starts chopping off his arms and his legs, and finally his head. One of them even starts collecting the blood, gushing from his slit throat. Gross. The tribe's ladies marinate Jonah's torso, while the rest chomp on Jonah's arms and legs, all while his friends watch in horror and disgust from within their cages. Jonah's death makes everyone sick and disgusted, except for Alejandro, who shows no signs of guilt or remorse. Amy, played by Kirby Bliss Blanton, soon starts pooping diarrhea inside the cage. This makes the tribal kids laugh out loud as they come closer to the group. One of the kids from the tribe is fascinated by Justine and her necklace, which has a tiny flute, supposedly made by her mother. Justine plays the flute and forms a bond with the kid. The Virginity Test, one of the most grossly disgusting and sickening scenes in the Green Inferno, is when the village elder takes a virginity test of the confined ladies. The captive ladies are brought before the village elder, who smells them and inserts a long animal claw into their lady parts to see if they bleed the virgin's blood. Obviously, none of the ladies pass the test, except Justine, who happens to be a virgin. Escaping the Inferno. The first person who tries to escape from the cage is Samantha, played by Magda Aponovich, who escapes her cage during a downpour by distracting a watchman with her phone's ringtone. She hides in a canoe but is soon caught and doesn't make it out. Instead, she's killed by the natives and eaten, perhaps even served to her friends who find her tattooed skin in their soup. Amy, who seems to share a lesbian relationship with Samantha, couldn't bear the trauma and slits her throat and dies. Eaten alive, Cannibal Style. Meanwhile, Lars, played by Daryl Sabara of Spy Kids fame, and Alejandro stuff marijuana into Amy's dead body so that when the cannibals eat her, they might get high and they can make an escape. The Scooby-Doo trick works, and the villagers indeed get high and start acting weird. But when Lars makes an escape, he gets caught by the intoxicated tribe members and gets eaten alive. Perhaps the worst kind of death in the entire movie. The lone survivor. Justine is returned to the cage after being painted and dressed in the village attire. She makes an escape with the help of the kid that she'd befriended. Meanwhile, Daniel, Nicholas Martinez, is tied to a stake and left to be eaten by ants. When Justine sees him, he cries in pain and asks her to kill him. The boy who helped Justine escape blows a powder in his face and slits his throat. Justine makes an escape with a man and a girl chasing her, but when they see a black jaguar, who the natives say is the guardian of the jungle, they stop. Justine is confronted by the same officer from the militia who tried to kill her in the beginning. This time, the militia is fighting with the cannibals. She threatens the militia that she will film everything and make it go viral. The militia helps Justine escape the jungle, and she finally returns to New York, where she tells her father and 2 other government officials that the cannibals were in fact friendly and didn't do her any harm. She instead tells them that the militia and the petrochemical company are the real criminals.
I found a satellite photo. It looks like my brother.
What happened to Alejandro? Meanwhile, Alejandro, who we learned during the course of the movie, set up the whole campaign for publicity and PR, is left stranded in the village. In a post-credit scene, we see Alejandro's sister contact Justine and tell her that Alejandro is alive in the jungle and he's seen wearing black paint, supposedly suggesting he has become a tribe member. Is the cannibal tribe inspired by real cults? Like with every cannibal movie set in a jungle or a remote island, the Green Inferno shows a cannibalistic tribe hungry for human flesh and blood. But this begs the question, is the cannibal tribe from the Green Inferno actually inspired by real cults? Before we answer this question, let's talk about how the Green Inferno was conceived from the twisted mind of writer-director Eli Roth, who has given us other cannibal-themed films, like the Hostel series and Cabin Fever. However, nothing shouts cannibalism quite like the Green Inferno, which is a throwback to the 1980 cult classic, Cannibal Holocaust. In fact, Eli Roth has cast real tribals in the Green Inferno, except for the main characters, such as the village elder and the bald man. The film shows the Yajis tribe, which is portrayed as the cannibalistic natives, although despite there being 20 uncontacted tribes in the Peruvian Amazon, there's no such tribe called the Yajis in reality. The untrained tribal actors seem pretty uncomfortable with the fake human flesh and other props in some of the scenes, which suggests they've never handled something like this before. It is said that it was not easy for Roth to convince the natives to work on his torture porn, Cannibal Gorefest, and that he actually had them watch the Cannibal Holocaust before he began filming with them. This is not to say that the movie is not actually inspired by real cannibal tribes or cannibalistic cults. Throughout history, there have been many reports of cannibalistic tribes living in the Amazon rainforest. Even today, there are many cannibalistic tribes, some of them uncontacted, living in the rainforests of Papua New Guinea and the Fiji Islands. Although a lot of these cannibal tribes have stopped the practice, there are still a few left. One of the last remaining tribes indulging in cannibalistic behavior is the Korowai tribe from southeast Papua New Guinea. There have been numerous reports of cannibalism from this tribe over the years, with the last one being reported as late as 2012. Just a year before the Green Inferno was released. As we see in the Green Inferno and other cannibal-themed films, cannibalism is shown as a form of defense and punishment from tribes who want to stay away from their enemy, or, like in the movies, the civilized world. These tribes do not let people from other territories enter their land and destroy its harmony. Marvelous verdict. Time for our marvelous verdict. Judging by the predictable story, a group of outsiders trying to enter uncharted lands and getting attacked by the local tribes, and the fact that there have been incidents of cannibal attacks in the Amazon rainforest, at least in the past, the cannibal tribe in the Green Inferno does seem to actually be inspired by real cannibalistic cults. However, it's just not the tribe shown in the movie, because if it were, half the film's cast and crew would have ended up dead meat. That being said, the Green Inferno was more of an homage to the Cannibal Holocaust, a movie riddled with controversy for its fake documentary style of storytelling. If you haven't watched it, we suggest you do. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.